Hello, everyone. Today we're joined by Professor Sylvia Knight, Head of Education at the Royal Meteorological Society. So, hello, Sylvia.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me to chat with you today.
Well, thank you so much. So, you have so much experience in this space, and would you like, first of all, just to share a little bit of your journey to how you got to where you are now?
Okay, so where I am now is that I lead the education work at the Royal Meteorological Society, which basically means that I'm there to support weather and climate teaching wherever that's found in the UK. So theoretically, at any level from early years through to undergraduate level or in any subject, although in practice, I tend to focus my attention on school levels and college. So I've been doing this work for over 17 years now. Before that, I did a PhD in meteorology and spent a few years working in climate research. So the Royal Meteorological Society is in Reading, although I work remotely. And because I deliver quite a lot of teacher training at universities around the country, I go and talk to a lot of trainee geography teachers before they start going into schools, just to improve their confidence in teaching weather and climate. Yeah.
Great. And we should probably say at this early stage as well that there are lots and lots of really good resources and materials to support teachers on the Royal Meteorological Society website, and we can link to that in the description. Um, but the thing that we really wanted to talk about today was then, why is it important for any educators to think about the quality of the resources, the climate education resources that they might use?
I think the first point to make really is that it's important to teach to be using climate education resources. We need to be delivering climate education because it is only one, but it is one of the most important issues facing society today. So yeah, that point first. And then there are obviously many resources available to teachers. But I see misconceptions and out of date information in actually the vast majority of them. So if you as a teacher are not an expert and you want to use a climate education resource, whether that's a classroom resource or maybe something to support your own subject knowledge, coming from a resource provider that you trust, how can you tell if the information in it is actually high quality? And I'm not just talking about the factual content here and whether that's accurate and complete. It's also about appropriate ways to teach climate change, because climate change needs to lead to an understanding, which helps students appreciate the impact of climate change on themselves and on their potential future careers. But it also needs to support them to act as global and local citizens. So beyond the understanding, it needs to give them hope about solutions and not lead to anxiety about the climate.
That sounds really good. I know we'll probably talk more about kind of good examples and places to go, but one that we always jump to is the Our World in Data, just because of the currency of the information. It's sort of so up to date, and the way that they present their information. Um, so
Yeah.
would you like to explain a little bit more about the quality control framework that, is it the NCEAP have developed? And maybe you can explain the acronym as well.
Yeah. So the NCEAP is the National Climate Education Action Plan, which is a very large and informal group of organisations working within the sphere of climate education, brought together by the University of Reading. And the group recognised that the quality of climate education resources was an issue. And so some of us worked together, again, very informally, just to try and develop a framework for assessing the quality of a climate education resource. If you're interested, you can find the framework that we developed on METLink, which is so the Royal Meteorological Society schools website. So the framework has three parts. The first part is self-assessment by the resource author, just saying what the climate information is in the resource, what levels it's relevant to, what the sources were of any information that went into it, all that sort of thing. The second part is expert assessment of the climate content, checking whether the sources are reputable, whether they're up to date, looking for any errors, also looking for any significant omissions. and also checking to make sure that the resource meets the required political guidance that schools received a couple of years ago. And then the third part is the expert assessment of the pedagogy and the curriculum relevance of the resource.
Just touching on that political piece, I mean, as far as I understand, the Department for Education have definitely said the debate is not around is climate change human induced. You know, the majority of scientific evidence supports that bit. Is the political bit that around the solutions, and it's about how we respond?
Yeah, I think it's when we look at those mitigation actions that and looking at maybe at the country's plans and what we've pledged as a country to mitigate, to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, that maybe things could start becoming political. But having said that, of all the resources I've looked at, I don't think I've seen any that really stray on the wrong side of meeting that political guidance. So I think that's actually quite hard. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how is the framework being used then?
It's primarily there for resource creators to use, to refer to when they're creating a resource, just to make sure that they've thought about the issues that you know, the pitfalls, I guess, and the things that might cause a resource to not be high quality. It could be used by an individual teacher to assess a particular resource that they're considering using, but that probably would then require a level of expertise that many teachers probably don't have. What we're actually finding is that many resource providers actually want us to assess their resources against the framework. So we've developed a quality mark for those that pass, I guess, which wasn't really what we originally envisaged, I don't think, but it's been interesting to see that there is that real appetite, I guess, for the quality mark. In practice, it's actually involved us working with a lot of resource providers a lot to iterate on their resource, because we're finding that the resources in their initial, you know, how they currently were, there were issues, but the resource providers, you know, everyone wants to make sure that the information in their resources is as high quality as possible, and so they've been very happy to work with us to correct anything that's needed that.
How then the kind of quality mark, is that a badge, or how would people recognize that?
Yes, it's a badge. It's got two different versions. The one that we're actually really using mostly at the moment is just saying that we've assessed the quality content, the quality of the climate change information, rather than the kind of pedagogical side of things. So if people do see the mark, it'll be the one that just says that the climate content has been assessed. So for example, all the resources are going up on the National Nature Parks, National Education Nature Parks website. We'll be carrying the badge. Yeah.
Cool. And I think that's an important thing as well. You said that we can't necessarily rely on individual teachers to be doing this process, you know, the level of expertise that's needed, and also the time, I imagine, as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not something that we can expect teachers themselves to do, and so it's good to know that there are places that teachers can go where all these resources can be found. Just to finish then, Sylvia, is there one piece of advice you give teachers then when they're looking for resources? I guess there's lots that you've sort of suggested there around being conscious of the content, but also the way that almost the message, the way it's taught, and the journey it takes on young people. But yeah, one piece of advice.
One piece, you've got to stick to one. I guess the first thing I'd say is that I won't say only look out for resources with a quality mark on, because I'm definitely not suggesting that anything without the mark isn't high quality. But maybe it is just about asking some basic questions if you're considering a new resource. Is it clear where any data or any images in the resource came from? And are those up to date? And probably most importantly, can you show your students why that information is relevant to them and why they should care about it, really?
And I know I've thrown in already our world in data. I mean, are there any places, and also you've mentioned the National Education Nature Parks website, but are there any other sorts of sources of information or data, or even if it's more on the kind of interesting spectrum and the idea that just the way they present it is engaging, are there any that jump to mind?
I've got, I mean, not necessarily specifically for education resources. I've
Yeah.
got a few favorite websites that I will tend to keep an eye on. So for anything kind of current and newsy, Carbon Brief are, brilliant
Mm.
for investigating anything that's currently in the media. Um, I like things like Gridwatch and things like this, which let you see where the UK's energy is coming from at a given moment in time. I think it can be a real eye opener, and it can be really positively surprising to see that, on days when almost all our energy is already being generated by renewable sources. And then there's all the websites that look at action and just continuously assessing individual countries' action and what they're doing and things like that.
Is that Climate
Yeah,
Action Tracker? Is quite a good one for
exactly.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
with their thermometer. Um,
yeah.
I'm going to throw in a curveball. This is one we've not kind of prepared, but I wondered maybe if this is an interesting direction. There's increasingly a lot of YouTube channels and kind of vloggers who are engaging in this content. The one that I'm really conscious of is Climate Adam, who creates really succinct videos around certain topics of kind of the climate and nature crisis. I wondered if kind of you'd explored that video content, and I guess it's a more challenging thing to quality assure, especially when that content is quite dynamic and being created quite quickly.
I think it's Simon Clark, is it, who produces some really, really good little short videos about climate change that are very, very high quality.
Thank you so much, Sylvia.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we've talked, there's some other exciting series that we might create as well. We're talking about maybe bringing your knowledge and expertise into some other kind of areas as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Look forward to speaking to you again. Thank you.